Good day, everyone. We are now on our next topic. Um, we had discussed already the different costs, no cost concept, and engineering economy, present economy problems in engineering economy. Now, we will be discussing today the time value of money. When we say the time value of money, uh, a money, no, referring to this statement, no, an earlier dollar is worth more than a later dollar, which means the money that I have now, for example, my 500 pesos today is actually lesser value compared to a 500 peso in the next years. No, and my 500 peso today has also rather 500 peso today has a greater value rather compared to the value of my 500 in the next years, which means we can also say that my 500 peso today has much lesser value if you will compare it to the 500 peso 10, 20 years ago. If we recall, a 1 peso in a 1 peso can buy, no, 5 or 10 years ago, a 1 peso can buy a bread, which is good enough for a single person. However, today, a bread is worth 5 pesos. No, we cannot buy a bread which is worth 1 peso only, which means with respect to time, the value of money will decrease. The same with investing. If you invest today, you have a capital and you invest it today, of course, in the next years, it would increase. No, the amount of your money will increase because there are some what we call interest, no, that will accumulate compared to when you invest a few years. Now, say for example, I invest 1,000 today, and I will withdraw it 5 years from now. So of course, if you would invest it in a bank or say for example in an investment firm, now of course 5 years from now that would not be only be worth 1,000, but there will be added amounts which we call it interest. Now, if you will compare the invested amount today and will be withdrawn 5 years from now with an invested amount probably 2 years from now and will be withdrawn 5 years from now. No, if you would compare them, of course, you will have a greater value when you invest today. Okay, that's what we mean by time value of money. So that the value of money changes over time or with respect to time. So I have mentioned earlier interest, and actually that is our topic. No. So when we say interest, by the way, I want in our module, I want you to proceed to the enrich part, no, and research on the origins of interest. You can submit it in a written form. No, just follow the guidelines on how to submit item or documents in written format. Now you have to write them on a piece of paper, take a photo and a selfie with your answer, or you can submit it using a Word file. Just don't forget to send the link to the page. No, put the link or paste the link to the text box provided on the page in the enrich uh, portion or section of our module. Again, uh, make a timeline. So your main item should be the dates or the years. Then you put some descriptions on what happened on those years, no, about the origin of interest. When when was interest originated? No, when did people started to put interest on borrowed amount or money? Okay, now when we say interest, it is amount paid for the use of a borrowed capital. No, or it can also be an income, the income produced by a money which has been loaned. There, if you would check the definition of interest, there are actually two point of view stated here. Now, the first one is in the point of view of a borrower. Now, if a person borrowed an amount, for example, in a lending institution, now he will be paying more than what he have borrowed, and that we call interest. Now, if you are on the lender's side, it is actually the amount or your income produced for letting or loaning a money. No, again, we have two sides here when we talk about interest. If you are on the borrower, so it is the additional amount that you have to pay. While if you are the lender, it is the additional income, no, which is made by loaning, no, or lending certain amount. Now there are two types of interest. We have simple interest. Now, by the way, interest, simple interest, and interest, we will use the same variable when dealing with the interest. Again, interest is an amount. No, it could be in peso, in dollars, etc. Now we have two types of interest. The first one that we will be discussing in this video is simple interest. Now it is when we say simple, if I would borrow an amount 500 and the lender would tell me na you pay that amount, when you pay that amount, you shall pay 550. So which means that uh, I need to pay an additional 50 pesos, no, of an amount borrowed. So that's what we call interest, and that is an example of a simple interest, which is based on the original amount of the loan or principal amount. Now the formula for that one is I, or the interest, is equal to the principal amount, or we can say the borrowed amount, or the present worth of that amount, multiplied by n, which shall be expressed in years. Now, if the given is days, then we have to convert it to year. Now, if the given in the problem are months, expressed in months, now we have to convert it into year. So remember that n is or shall be in terms of years. Then we have a small I. Now, small I is not an interest, rather rate of interest. Again, a lowercase I is the rate of interest. If I would say, when you borrowed an amount from me, I will um, give 10% interest rate. So which means if you borrowed 1,000 from me, the interest will be 10% of 1,000, and that's um, 100, no, pesos. So you'll be paying 1,110 when you for your borrowed amount. Okay, then the interest is not the 10%. So again, the interest is not the 10%, but rather the 100, while the rate is not 100, but rather 10%. And you have to express, say for example, if I have 10%, you have to express it when you multiply it to this formula or equation to a decimal form. How will you do that? You divide 10 by 100, so you will get 0.10. So you will have to multiply it I no, I point 10 to the principal, so the borrowed amount. You will have the interest. Now, what's the use of n? Commonly, the interest, uh, again, commonly the n is in terms of 1 year. Now, if we will talk about simple interest, but there would be times that it's not exactly 1 year. So that is why we have to convert the value or the given values, no, which might be expressed in days or months, into years. So if I would say you have to pay your borrowed amount 12, I say 20 months from now. So you have to convert 20 months into in terms of years. And F is the accumulated amount or the future worth. And how will we calculate that? That's the principal or the borrowed amount plus the interest. No, based on my example, if I have borrowed 1,000 and I paid an addition of 100, then the future worth will be 1,000 plus 100. No, that's the accumulated amount. Now we have two types of simple interest. Now these types of simple interest are based on the number of days in a year, or are calculated based on the number of days in a year. When we say ordinary simple interest, this is also termed as a banker's year, wherein for each month they have rounded it to 30 days per month. So we will assume that each month is composed of 30 days, which means a year, 1 year is equivalent to 360 days. When do we use ordinary simple interest? By default, if it is not stated in the problem, we will use ordinary simple interest. However, you have to analyze the problem well. Now, if in the problem there are specific dates mentioned, then you will not use ordinary simple interest. We can use ordinary simple interest when a specific day, a specific month, or a specific year is not stated. So if I would just say, if my problem would just state that uh, there will be an interest of a borrowed amount within 30 months. No? So with that, we don't know which month or what month, what day, what year. So we will use ordinary simple interest. And how do we do that? We will solve n by dividing the number of days given by 360 uh, days. Now, if the given values are in terms of days, you have to divide it by 360. But if the given values are in terms of months, say 30 months, of course you will have to divide it by 12. No, or you can use the longer process, 30 months multiplied by the number of days per month, and that is based on the banker's year, 1 month has 30 days, so you have to multiply it by 30 and divided by 360, both of which will have the same result. And again, remember that n shall be in terms of years. The other one is the exact simple interest. Now, when we say exact simple interest, it is based on the exact number of days in a year. So we will use exact simple interest when dates are given or mentioned in the problem. Say, for example, the man borrowed today, say, November 5, no, and will be paying the borrowed amount on January 10. So you'll have to get the exact number of days based on the calendar days. Now, the one difficulty would be knowing which year is a leap year. We all know that our calendar has a leap year, which is which happens every 4 years. And when is it? No, when do we know that that year is a leap year? Now, the simple trick is that you divide the year by 4, since the leap year occurs every 4 years. So say, for example, if this year is 2020, then you try to divide it by 4. No, you'll have 5, 0, 5. Remainder 0, I think. When the remainder is 0, so that's 5, that's 20. So this is 2, 0, then bring down 0. Then it will have 5, 20. When the remainder is 0, that means that year is a leap year. Now, in a leap year, there are actually 366 days. So, which means we will use the denominator 366 when dealing with days in a leap year. If it's an ordinary year, we will only be using 365 days. So, when do we say that it's an ordinary year? So when the remainder is not equal to 0, meaning when you divide 2020, the year by 4 and there are decimal places there, then that would mean the remainder is not equal to 0. And that year is an ordinary year. Say for example 2021. We will check, or let's say 2022. As you can see, it's an even number. It should be divisible by 4, right? But let's check. That's 5. So 20. So that's 0. Then you will have 2. So that will be 0. So we'll have 22. And that's 5. No, and you'll have 20. Now take note of the remainder, which is 2. So again, the rule is if there is a remainder, now when dividing the year by 4, then that is not a leap year, but an ordinary year. So a leap year can be determined only when the remainder is equal to 0. And that would be 3. We will be using 366 days. Now let's have these examples. Now I have here 5 examples. All of them have answers in the next slides, and 3 of them will have a solution. So so these are the answers for the problems. Number 1, you have I, or the interest, is equal to 70 pesos, and so on. Now here is uh, a solution for problem number 1. Now let's try to play this video. So based on the problem, so let's read first the problem. Determine the ordinary simple interest of 700 pesos for 8 months if the rate of interest is 15 years. Now again, we have to take note that there are 2 types of simple interest: ordinary simple interest and exact simple interest. Now, since in the problem, the exact dates are not stated, so which means we will be using ordinary simple interest. Okay, that means we will have to use this formula. D is equal to N rather is equal to D over 360. So given, take note of the given values. You have 700 pesos. So this is the borrowed amount. 8 months is the time that it will be paid. That will be our N, but we have to convert it into years. No, since the given is in terms of months, so we have to convert this into year. And you have 15% is the rate of interest, then we have to convert it into a decimal value, no, a real value. So we have to divide 15 by 100, and you will get the rate of interest, which is I. Now, so again, here is the video showing how the problem was being solved. Again, you have the given. No, we have the given values. We have P, which is equal to 700 pesos. Then we also have our N. Now given is 8 months, but we have to convert it into year. No? So that is 8 months. So again, you can use the longer method. You can convert it into the number of days. So let's try that one. So you'll have 8 months times there are 30 days in 1 month using Banker's year. So in 1 year, in a Banker's year, there are 360 days. Then we can eliminate the common unit of measure. Then what will be left is the year unit. So 8 times 30 divided by 360 will get, that's 2/3. Now you can convert it into its real value. That's 0.6667 a year. But since it's not yet the final answer, I would recommend that we will use the fraction form, no, the unrounded form. Now let's continue with the conversion of our interest rate. Again, you have to divide 15 by 100 so that you will get 0.15. So there are our values: P, which is 700, N, which is 2/3, and I is equal to 0.15. The next step is now take note of the unknown. No, the what is asked in the problem. So the unknown value in the problem. So if you would recall uh, the problem stated, now I is the unknown one. Now we need to find the interest after 8 months. So how much is I after 8 months? Using the formula, I is equal to P times N times I, that is 700. Now we will substitute the values of our known variables. And you have 700 times 2/3 times 0.15. Multiply them and you will get an amount of 70 pesos. And that is our final answer. Therefore, after 8 months, your 700 will become 770 when interest is placed. So that's it. That's how we solve problem number one. Next, we will solve problem number two. So problem number two states, in problem number two, we have to determine the exact simple interest of 500 pesos for the period from January 10 to August 28, 2012 at 16% interest. Now take note, now you have January 10, August 28, 2012, the month, the date, and the year are stated, which means we will use exact simple interest. Then, based on the given values, we have the following. Our this 500 pesos will be our present worth since that is the borrowed amount. No, then we have the rate of interest, which is 16% or 0.16. Now take note that 16% is not equal to 0.16, but rather we have converted 16% to its real value, which is 0.16. Now we have to determine n. Now, since n is again in terms of year, but based on the problem, we have the given days, given dates. No, now let's if you will divide 2012 by 4, it's actually a leap year. Now there is no remainder, so that means there are 366 days in a year. Now there is a correction in this video since what was used is 365, but we have to correct that one. That's actually 366. Anyways, you just have to check on how it was solved. So you have there the number of days. We will have to solve the number of days from January 10 to August 25. So let's start with January. So that's we have the months from January, February, March, April, then we also have May, we have June, then we have July, then until August. Take note that we will be only calculating until August 28. For January, we've started from January 10, which means the 31 days in January will be deducted by 10. February, since it's a leap year, has 29 days. Ordinary years has 28. March has 31 days. April has 31 days. 30 days rather. May has 31 days. June has 30 days. Now July has 31 days. For August, supposedly, no, August has 31 days. But you have to take note that we will be only calculating until August 28, which means we will only be using 28 days for August. Then sum them all, we'll get 200 days, which means our n is equal to 200 divided, sorry for 366 days. Now again, this is not 365 but 366 days. Then we now have n, so we will have to substitute the values of our known variables to the formula I is equal to p times n times the lowercase I. P is equal to 500, multiply it by your n, which is 200 over 366, multiply it by I, the lowercase I, which is 0.16. Then you will get um, values which is decimal form. Now, for this case, we will have to round it to the nearest hundreds. Now, approximately, you have 43.83. Uh, Again, we have a correction. Now, the correct answer is here. Now, you have approximately that is 43.72 pesos. Now, if you will be paying that, if you will be paying that, no, so you cannot pay exact 72 pesos. You might be using 75 pesos or 70.70 centavos rather. So you can use 43.70 or 43.75 when you are actually paying it. But since we are only solving it, now we will just make use of the exact values, approximated values. Again, we have to correct this one. Now, since you have 365 here, but the correct answer is 366. Now, take note, no, that we only have a difference of 1, but you have to take note kung sino nahitabo nila. No, you have 0.72 is quite a large difference compared to 0.84. So that's 0.12, di ba? Difference 0.12. So that is why this is an example of wherein we have to really check. We have to be very careful on the answer. So we have to review. Now, upon review, I have checked that I actually typed or wrote the wrong value. Now, since it's a leap year, we have 366 days in a leap year. And again, the correct answer is not 43.84, but 43.72 pesos. Okay, that's it for number 2. Now, let's proceed to number 3. Again, I will be only be showing to you the solution for the first 3 problems. Now you have to solve for uh, you have to solve numbers 4 and 5 on your own and check whether you have or we have the same answers. For number 3, this is how we solve it. It's quite different. We will not be solving for the interest. Now it's quite different rather with the previous examples. What are we going to solve? If you will check the problem, we have 10,000 pesos as the present worth or the principal worth. Then we have 15,000 pesos as the future worth. Now, when it was invested in a simple interest for 3 years, you have to take note that it's not stated in the problem. The exact days are not stated in the problem. No, it was asked that the rate of interest are or the rate of interest is being asked in the problem. So based on this, now based on the given, we will have to write the values of the known variables. We have here P is equal to, or our 10,000 is actually the borrowed amount or the principal worth, and that is our P. Then we have another value which is 15,000 pesos, and that is our, so you have to take note P and you have 15, so which means this is our F or the future worth. So it is invested for 3 years. Take note, no, take note, 3 years. No, it's not the exact dates are not stated. So which means uh, we have to uh, which means we have to convert it. No, which means we'll be using simple interest. Okay, so that's using the formula. This one, since we will be dealing with the lowercase I. No, you will be dealing with the lowercase I. This is what is asked in the problem. So we'll have these, substitute the values. Now you have, since we are looking for I, so we'll have to change the formula to manipulate the formula. Then transpose P to the left side. Then for I to be left on one side, we have to divide both sides by P over N. Then we'll get the formula for I, and that is F minus P all over P over N. Okay, next. We have to substitute all of the the values of the known variables to our formula or equation. F is equal to 15,000. Then we have P, which is equal to 10,000. Then divide them all by P, which is 10,000. And N, which is equal to 3. No? So again, remember that N is in terms of years. So we don't need to convert the 3 years. No. So I is approximately equal to 0.1667. Now remember, uh, you have to remember, or you have to take note that when approximating or rounding values, we have to round it to the nearest 10,000, which means we have to round it in 4 decimal places. Why? Because when we convert it into percentage, so we will multiply it by 100, so you will see the result. That's 16.67%. Now rounded values now will then have 2 decimal places. Again, when dealing with money, we'll have to round them with in the 2 decimal places or in the nearest hundreds. So that would be all now for the 3 problems. And again, you have to solve the remaining 2 problems on your own. Anyways, there were already answers to the problems stated, no? So just check, for your, so that you can practice solving problems. Now, this is the last part of this discussion. In the engaged portion or in the engaged part of our module, in the engaged section, please answer this problem. Now, if you have received an amount of 100,000 on December 27, 2016, which was invested on January 2, 2016 at 4%, now, how much have you invested? There's a simple, notice that there is a simple, a small value of text here. This is actually the answer to the problem. Now, what you have to do is show the solution of this problem. You write it in a piece of paper, you write the solution legibly, and submit it in the engaged portion of our module, lesson number 1. That would be all for today. Now, thank you for watching this video, and see you on the next lesson. And that is the next or the other type of interest, which is the compound interest. Thank you and good day.